Welcome once again to Pale Blends and Beyond. Thank you for joining us today. Ray Materick is a Canadian singer-songwriter who is probably best known for his 1975 song, Linda Put the Coffee On, which was a hit in Canada and the US. Ray came up on my radar via his first album from 1972, Sidestreets. And if I do say so, it's a great collection of singer-songwriter folk rock tracks. Ray released 4 more albums during the late 70s and early 80s. He then took a 8-year hiatus from music, employed by a Toronto woodworking company. In all, Ray was out of music for almost 2 decades. Over his career, Ray has released some 22 albums, his most prolific time being the start of the new millennium with 7 albums in 2 years. Wow. In 2012, Ray was honored in a couple of tribute concerts by Honoring Our Own, an organization dedicated to recognizing musicians with lifelong contributions to Canadian music. Recently, Ray has been involved in a music project, Peace on Earth, with Keon Crosswell on bass and guitar and Dan Kolthof on drums. The band has released a couple of albums. And my guest is still performing live. Well, welcome, Ray.
Hi, Greg.
Thank you for joining me. Thanks for taking time out to do this and visit. Well, take us back to the beginning. Talk about where you were born.
Oh, that far back, eh? Brantford, Ontario, Canada.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Do you have any fond childhood memories?
I have lots of fond childhood memories. I was just I just drove past my home that I grew up in Brantford. Well, I live on Vancouver Island, so I happened to be in the area a couple of weeks ago and was able to take a nice picture of it. It's been kept up well and going to hang it on my wall, remind me of where I grew up. But yeah, overall, I have a lot of good childhood memories from that neighborhood.
Yeah. That reminds me, a few years ago, we were in East Texas, and I grew up in Tyler. I don't know if you've ever heard of Tyler, but we went back to see our old house and went up and knocked on the door, and we were just going to, if the people living there would just let us, tell them we used to live there, could we check it out, see what has changed? Of course, they didn't answer the door. I don't know if they were out or, who are these people, coming knocking on the door. So anyway, it's always good to go back and revisit.
It was, yeah.
Yeah. Well, early on, do you remember hearing music in the household?
Well, my dad had a dance band in the 40s and 50s, and my brother Ron played guitar and sang in a band, and in the late 50s. And yeah, I had a lot of music in my house. Yeah.
I know there is a musical gene or influence, like you said, from your father's side. He played, for
sure.
Yes, multi-instrumentalist.
Yes, he was. Yeah, a very talented guy. Yeah.
And he was also involved in the ministry, right? I mean, he was.
He spent the last 40 years of his life as a evangelical traveling minister. Yeah, he did.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Can you remember
along with his saxophone?
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Big part of his appeal.
Did he do any revivals, that kind of thing?
Absolutely. Yeah. Whatever that entails, he did.
Okay, yeah. Great. Well, can you remember, fast forwarding a little bit, I guess here, first single or 45 or album that you bought?
I believe it was "Wake Up Little Susie" by the Everly Brothers. Okay. My brother brought it home, and I was just at the right age to be excited by the new music that I was hearing, and so I would ape my brother whenever I could, and started playing guitar and started singing Elvis songs.
Okay, yeah. Well, I've heard that how influential the Everly Brothers were, with their harmonies and on both sides of the ocean. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
for
Very
sure.
well. What was guitar the first instrument you started playing?
Well, I took about 3 trumpet lessons, long enough to find out I wasn't about to play trumpet. And
Okay,
no, I just picked up the guitar after that.
okay. And were you self-taught on the guitar?
More or less, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard, in doing these interviews and just reading on the internet how taking lessons is a little bit too structured and limiting I might say, and a lot of people that are musicians that did that, they kind of broke out of it as soon as they could, wanted to do their own thing, and
Yeah, I
as
can
well
understand that.
as well as that. Well, how about some musicians and artists that you're into, like let's say as a teenager?
Oh, well, I'm a Rolling Stones guy.
Okay.
Yeah. And so Rolling Stones, Animals, Creedence Clearwater, my band favorites, and songwriters, Dylan, Lightfoot, and a smidge of Christopherson.
Oh, okay. Chris Christophers. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, sad to hear of Gordon's passing.
Yes, yes. Um, the bass player in my, as I was telling you about the reunion band, was Bob Deutsch, who was Gordon Lightfoot's producer for the last 20 years. And I just spent some time with Bob, and yeah, he misses him.
Yeah, yeah. I heard he wasn't doing real well the last few years.
He didn't look that well. And I know they did a lot of production work with Bob going back and forth to McMaster Hospital and playing him the daily tapes and getting his advice and things like that. And then he hit the road again. So he
Yeah,
did it. He did it till he dropped. And I guess that's the dream.
yes, that's true. And I hear
Yeah.
that. It's a lifelong passion. Well,
Yeah.
what about were you going to any concerts as a teen? Maybe one of the first live shows that you attended? That kind of.
Well, the most influential show for me uh, when I was at an influential age or willing to be influenced was the Mandela Canadian band,
Okay.
R&B band,
Uh,
and that really, I thought they were just the nuts, and it caused me to have even a greater passion towards following music. Yeah,
all right, all right. Where was that at an auditorium or someplace close to you? Or was it?
yeah, like a high school auditorium.
Okay, man, I have heard of that. I don't think I have any material about them, but I have heard of them. Well, talk about the first band that you were a part of.
Uh, that was in the early '60s, and it was a band called the Chevrons, and they were from Brantford, Ontario. It was we did Motown, and I was the lead singer. Yeah,
Okay, okay. Are any of those guys still around?
hard to
You
say. Hard to
okay,
say.
okay, all right. All right. Well, fast forwarding from that, when did you realize that you were probably more set or more wanting to go in the solo singer-songwriter direction?
Well, it was just the times.
Okay.
Up about that time, I was the right age that people were writing their own songs, and I was just a natural at that. Although it took me many years of hard work to get to a point where I could get my first recording contract. It wasn't like I wasn't that much of a natural. I had to work pretty hard, and but I did achieve that, and that was Sidestreets
Okay. Yeah.
back in I don't know 73,
72.
1973.
Yeah. Yep. We'll talk about how you did get that contract. How did that all come about?
I walked in the right door at the right time with the right songs.
Okay. Okay. All right. So you had been knocking on some doors for a while.
I've been knocking on doors, not that many, but yeah, I've had my fair share of interest that you know that keeps you hanging on, and some rejection, and then acceptance and success.
Yep. There you go. We'll talk about some of the places that you would play live around this time.
Um, I played all across the country, and from mostly either A-list clubs or concerts, and uh, I guess I played Massey Hall, but that was at the very beginning of my career, and I was just opening for I think Jose Feliciano.
Huh.
But that was a very influential gig for me. I was just up there soloing my guitar player, and we got this huge encore. And for two guys, from Brantford on stage at Massey Hall, that was a big time for us. And yeah, so all the gigs were exciting, but that was particularly exciting.
Yes, I could imagine. Well, can you remember maybe one of the gigs where you had the fewest number of people, and then the opposite of that, the largest crowd you played for?
Yeah. I won't get into the small crowds. The largest one, I guess, we played Maple Leaf Gardens with Santana. I think it was, I don't know, 16,000 people. Also, I played some festivals, so who knows how many people were there. I played a lot of festivals. Yeah,
Yeah. Do you prefer the indoor concerts or the outdoor festivals?
probably indoor.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard that sentiment. Well, talking about your first album, Sidestreets, that of course is where I became interested in you. Um, how long had you been accumulating songs for the album?
3 or 4 years, I guess. I was working on it, and I didn't get out much. I practiced all the time. Had to get my own sound, what I sounded like, what I wrote like together. That took quite a while. A lot of wine and cigarettes, I guess, and a lot of practice.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
and that's what happened. Yeah, it
Okay. And what label was it released on?
was released on an independent label. It was like one of the first independent labels called Kanata, but they had national distribution and promotion through London Records, and that's what really swung the pendulum in sort of my direction.
Oh, all right. Yeah, London, big label there. Well,
Yeah.
do you recall the recording sessions?
Oh, yes, I do. It was a great experience for me. All those days were great experiences for me. Getting a record contract, great experience for me. Rehearsing with these great players, great experience for me. Going to the studio and recording like live off the floor, mostly. What a great experience. And then, holding the record in my hand after all my hard work and all my visions of what could possibly happen, and then hearing it, on the radio, on FM radio. I had a couple big hits on FM radio, and exciting times. Try
Yeah,
that
yeah.
sometime. Try that trip.
Right. I was gonna say, from the idea, the concept to the actual
Yep.
physical, you said copy and hearing it on the radio
It was
coming
a it was a great time of life for me.
coming to fruition.
Yeah.
Well, going back to the album, I want to say mention a couple of three songs here and just kind of get your 2 cents or your input, inspiration behind it, storyline, that kind of thing. Um, I think one thing I'll never ask is why is probably my favorite track on the whole album.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I just re-recorded that actually sometime. How many years later? Who knows? Um, and put it on my Common Man Cool album. That song. Yeah, well, it's pretty flowery stuff back then. And a lot of people like that song the best on the album. And it is a long, wordy, romantic ballad, and very much in the folk tradition of those times, which is sort of a modern folk tradition. And yeah, well, thanks. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned it is a long track, but it doesn't seem that long because I guess once you become kind of wrapped up in the song and you're experiencing it, there's enough, changes in it to keep it from seeming really long. So,
Right. I guess there is. Yeah. 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 I've had a lot of people say a lot of nice things about that song.
a second song, and I know this was a hit. "Hard Life Alone." That's that's
Hard
another
Life
really.
Alone. Yeah. Yeah. It got some framed things were handed to me about Hard Life Alone, that I could put on the wall. I don't know much about the story. It's just about how people change over time. How you thought they were this, and then you run across them again years later, and it doesn't quite work the same.
Right,
That's all it was. Relationship song.
right,
Yeah.
right. How things change.
Although it was Hard Life Alone, it was called. So the relationship wasn't going that well.
Right, right. Yes, I get that feeling from that song too as well.
Yeah. I like that. I like that song a lot. I like the word structure. I like the way it's sung. And I like it.
Yeah, and then a third track that's I have a real affinity for off of that album is "Morning Song." Like that one.
Ah, nice, nice. Romantic ballad. Another romantic flowery ballad. I wrote pretty flowery back then, but I like that song as well myself. Yeah, it's got a certain I don't know, a certain calm gentleness, early morning flow about it.
Yes, it
Yeah,
does. Yes.
yeah.
In listening to albums, from years ago, current albums, if there's a song about morning, something, I'm probably going to like it. You know, because it is more gentle, like you said, it's a awakening kind of a thing.
Right.
That and songs about rain. If it's a song about rain, I'm probably going to like that one too. So anyway, those two subjects, and then of course the title track. I really enjoy Side Streets. I really enjoy that one.
Right. Yeah. It was I enjoy that song as well. When I still sing that song, and it's just says what I wanted to say at the time, and sort of rings true to me today. So it's a good, long-lasting song.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, speaking of, still performing, when you do play live, you find a lot of the audience like miming the words and they know the lyrics and
Normally, I can't see anybody,
oh,
but
okay.
I have caught glimpses of people singing along for sure, and I encourage it. Yeah,
Yeah,
but I usually can't see them.
yeah. How about comments or emails or after the concert, people telling you, they've been following you for years and years, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I get a lot of that.
Yeah, yeah. That's got to feel good, you know.
It feels great. Though all those time periods of my life were very emotional and powerful and busy and creative and enjoyable.
Yeah,
So it's great to look back on,
yeah.
even though there were, not every road was straight, but it ended up in the right place.
Right, right. I wanted to say something about the cover of the album. I like that. It looks it gives kind of, to me anyway, a feeling of I mean, you were like walking. You were like deliberate in your walking around. It's like, this is me. This is how I feel. These are my songs. And you're a confidence, certain confidence. I
I
think.
probably did.
Yeah,
At that point, when they're taking the album photograph, I was probably feeling pretty good.
yeah, yeah. I think it comes across to me at least. That's
Ah,
my
good,
yeah.
good.
Well, as you mentioned, the label that you're on, unfortunately, it wouldn't last long. Kind of, they folded.
Well,
Uh,
I think that the main guy is I wanted the main guy, Gene Lees, who's a famous lyricist, I guess. I think he passed away, and I'm not sure what happened to the company at the time. I got offered, I had an offer I couldn't refuse, um, from Warner Electric Atlantic. So I went in that direction, um, right or wrong.
Right, right. I think it was probably a good choice for you. Uh, well, talk about the recording of the album Neon Rain from '74, and who produced the album.
Uh, Gene Martinek produced the album. He was producing all the folk stars, Bruce Coburn, Murray McLaughlin, a bunch of other people. And it was done at Manta Sound, a large studio in Toronto. And I kind of went crazy, I had a large budget, and I kind of went a little crazy, but with strings and stuff like that. But it was a great experience overall. I'm not sure how well it did. I know that there was a hit record on it, and so I guess it probably did pretty good.
Yeah, I'd say so. Was it a little less intimidating this time, being the second time in the studio from your first time?
It was completely different. This wasn't as raw and as on top of things as the first album. It was more thought out, planned out, took a long time. Got this guy in, got that guy in, and that's what happened there.
Okay. Was there a lot of overdubbing and that kind of thing done on this one, or?
Like there's usually a lot of overdubbing on a lot of stuff, and maybe the rhythm tracks are live, but then I think that they take their time and overdub this and that, on those albums they did. Yeah. On my first album, Sidestreets, that was like everything you hear was live off the floor, except maybe, the occasional horn or harmonica or something.
Right, right. Well, yeah, it was well produced though, that first album, I think.
That's great. Dave Bird, a guy named Dave Bird did it, and he put the players together, and they were all kind of like Toronto legend players, and yeah, and he pulled it off. He pulled it
Yeah.
off, I think, at a reasonable rate, and was just exciting. Yeah.
Well, of course, from Neon Rain, that was the album that has the track. Well, also it was a single, Linda Put the Coffee On,
Right.
right prior to the album. When it releasing the song, did you have a good feeling about it that it had a lot of potential to be the hit that it became?
I really wasn't that involved in that. I was just sort of making the music for them, and they sort of made their own decisions on what they were going to do. Um, I will tell you a story, though, a true story, that I was walking along the street, the main street in Hamilton, Ontario, where I spent a lot of my life, and good creative, hard bit town for sure. And yeah, there was a car going by, and it was playing that song, and I could hear it blasting out the window. That's how I first heard that it was on the radio, and that was another great day, I might say. And yeah,
That's kind
but who knew, how competent they were to promote things, or how incompetent they were to promote things. But I guess they did a good job in that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, hearing Linda put the coffee on, I mean, that must have been surreal, hearing it coming out of a car.
It was pretty surreal. Well, starting from beginning my practicing in my room to hearing that on AM radio through a car window was quite the
Yeah,
trip. Yeah, quite the trip
yeah, yeah.
for
Pinch
a
me.
Canadian boy,
Yeah.
from a small town.
Well, I would say for anybody, really.
I guess so.
Wow, pinch me.
Right.
Well, uh, throughout the rest of the '70s, you would release what, three more albums, and then one in '82, or
Right.
early
That's right.
'82.
Yeah.
Um, which of those were were you had an did you have an affinity for? Which of those subsequent albums?
Well, at the time, I made them with all the passion and belief that I had in those songs and in those recordings. So they were all the same to me.
Yeah.
Different movies, though, different times of my life, and like I always say, they just gave me the budget and let me do whatever I wanted. And I always say for better or for worse, you know. Uh, so those are all great times to me. And not as once again, there was ups and downs and overs and outs, and people got married, people died, had babies, but in the end, the album came out. And no, I guess well, I just, as I mentioned, I just had occasion to play those songs live with the actual players played on those three albums for the most part, and revisiting those songs, or at least 15 of them, and uh, they all, I liked them all, and I thought that they still had life, and they sounded good, and I could look you in the eye and play them to you, and yeah, so we just did that show, a reunion show, a couple of weeks ago, and we got 2 standing ovations for 50-year-old material. Yeah, it was amazing.
That is
Yeah,
amazing. That is-
I-
So,
yeah.
so as they say, the magic was there, the chemistry was still there between the players.
Apparently the sound out front was fantastic. Yeah, and so I'm told, and it was just a memorable night, and it wasn't my idea. It was Bob Doidge's idea, the producer, and I thought, well, okay, let's do it, and it was a huge success. Sold out the theater, and like I say, it was really well received. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's talking about those songs from those albums. So they're all sort of it might have been kind of foggy me answering that question, but I happen to have just researched them and played them all, so I can answer it.
Well, good timing on that.
Good
Okay.
timing on that.
Exactly. Well, it's really, yeah, it's got to be a good feeling to know that you still have all those fans. And, a lot of them, I'm sure that maybe have passed it on to their children or turned them onto it and that kind of thing. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's nice. I hear from people all the time that this song or that song meant something in their life, or the album, or just seeing us live and stuff like that. I get a lot of that kind of emails, I guess, or
yeah,
Facebook things, and so I'm happy. I'm happy that it affected some people, and they had a good time
yeah,
listening
yeah,
to my material.
yeah. Music travels. It does.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, yeah.
So you'll find that, and people with taste, even some of the younger people that listen to what I consider crap. Once you turn them on to some of this stuff, they'll see the difference in that. I think they appreciate it. A lot of people
Oh, I don't doubt that.
that have taste. Well, um, let me ask you why you walked away from music.
Well, it was kind of an exhausting time. All those years, it was fairly exhausting, and creatively, it was great. And drank a lot of booze, did a bunch of drugs, played everywhere. And yeah, the time came for me to recover from all those years. And um, I was presented with the perfect opportunity to do that. And so, yeah, it wasn't hard for me to do.
Okay, so you're referring to woodworking.
Woodworking, yeah, for sure. Well, as I always like to say, it's very similar to songwriting in that, you have material, you have experience, you have tools, and you have a final created piece of work. So it's very similar, just a little more tangible in the woodworking area.
Is that something that earlier on in your life you had an affinity for, or was it something you
um,
picked?
Not really, but uh, I know my dad could do all of that, and I would watch him and work with him on that. So I just like the smell of the wood, actually, and it was very calm, patient, relaxing, creative, and I got paid, so it was all good.
All right. Well, you did return almost 2 decades, return to music. Um, and I know, in talking to so many musicians on this channel, once you're a musician, you're always a musician. It's in your blood. Am I somewhere close to the truth in that assessment?
Well,
You got it.
I've been unable to shake it. That's all,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you that. But there's no reason for me to. I enjoy it. Just sitting around playing my songs or to myself or to my pets, is rewarding enough. As I like to say, some guys fix cars, some guys fix motorcycles, some guys paint. I write songs.
Yeah.
You can't stop me.
Well, we're a lot of people glad you do. A lot of
Mm.
fans, listeners, I'm sure, and glad a lot of musicians do, especially. It's I'm not a musician. I never had the discipline for it, but I do appreciate music.
Oh,
So
you must to do a show
yeah,
like this.
yes, I do. Yes, I
Yeah,
do. And especially this time period that we're talking about, the late '60s, early '70s, really mid '70s. Yeah, I really appreciate, and the singer songwriter time. Yeah,
that's
really,
right.
that time.
It was a singer-songwriter time. It was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you too. Wait, where did I go with that? Okay. Um, when did you start your own label, King Kong Records?
Oh, that started. I can't remember the year, but the reason it started was there's so many talented people in Hamilton where I was at the time that good songwriters, but maybe unmotivated in a lot of ways or unable financially to record their work. And so I took a bunch of them into the studio. And first, I started with 3-song demos for a number of people that I thought could use 3-song demos. And then I went ahead and produced a bunch of albums for these young songwriters and put them up on a website. And I also did a lot of acoustic work of my own that I put up there too. But it was inspired by the Hamilton music scene and the writers that I appreciated.
Okay, okay. Well, it's glad, good thing that you kind of gave back, and we're
Yeah, I
helping.
enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. There's some good talent, and if they have faith in me, um, pulling out of them what their song's trying to say, then it works. And they did, and so it was good.
Yeah, yeah. Good that you could help those along, help them
Yeah, for
get a
sure it
start.
was. Yeah, I felt good. You know, kept me involved, kept me in the studio as
Yeah,
well from you know, my perspective. But it also helped them and gave them. I'm not sure what I couldn't help them beyond giving them their piece of music.
yeah.
Like I couldn't go to. I'm not a businessman, so and so I don't know what happened to them. I know they were happy to get them, happy to do the work.
Yeah, yeah. Well, all those years away from music, you obviously had been writing and you amassed quite a number of songs to put out those 7 albums. Is that right? In a couple of years?
A lot of songs. Yeah, I wrote a lot of songs over the years. I just didn't do anything with them. And then actually, it was I wrote so many songs that I remember I would find cassette tapes and I'd put them on and I go, oh, that's a good song. And whoa, way to go, Ray! That was a good song. And yeah, so uh, they come from everywhere all the time.
Yeah, yeah. As of today, do you still a lot of them songs still in the vaults that you never released?
Um, Not that many, probably, uh, but a lot of new songs. Well, then I was able to before COVID up here. There was a friend of mine who was building a studio, and I was sort of his guinea pig. So we made 3 albums there just to get the bugs out of the studio and to bring up his chops so he could charge money. And I was able to make that those albums. But since COVID, Yeah. The recording studios out here are few and far between. It's sort of remote in some ways to be on an island, on the West Coast. And there's not that many, although there are a lot of talented singer-songwriters out here who play guitar and that. It's sort of uh, like a bonfire type of culture. There's always a fire pit going and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Maybe not so much in the summer these days, but so a lot of sitting around the fire and a lot of parents from the 70s,
Yeah.
out here. So, yeah.
A little communal feel to it. Yeah.
I guess there is. Eventually everybody's in it for themselves, so who's to know? But yeah, it can be warm and wonderful.
Right. Right. At the right time.
Yeah.
Well, how were you notified by Linus Entertainment Warner Music about the plans to release that double CD, Life and Times?
Well, I made this album called The Songwriter,
Okay.
uh, and I had the opportunity to make it. I made it in a 150-year-old barn that had been refurbished, and the isolation booths were actually where the cow stalls, but they had been fitted with glass sliding doors, and that. So it was pretty interesting. It was a nice album. We made it pretty quick. We used a guy who became a very good friend of mine, a bass player, played with Neil Young and Bob Dylan and James Brown, a guy named, oh yeah, right, I'm not going to remember his name now. Um, uh, oh, I know his name.
That's okay. We can edit
So
that.
it's funny, Tim. His first name's Tim, and he played bass with all those guys. And how can I forget? How can I forget his last name? And what a mind blank. He even had it on the back of his jacket when he walked around. He had his name on there. Um, wow, that's odd. Anyway, suffice to say that he was on that album, and he really is the Cadillac of bass players. And so that album met with a good response. It was only out a short while, and review-wise, and then I put on a show at the Hughes Room, which was a big folk club in Toronto, and a friend of mine, Gary Slate, actually put it on, and it was a successful gig. And from that moment, that Songwriter album was absorbed into the 2-disc situation. So Warner Brothers allowed Linus to use the songs that I chose from those years to put it together with the Songwriter album, which they had adopted as their own, put the two together, and it became Life and Times. And yeah, what a treat, eh? What a treat it was to have that double album package with my 70s material and my new material. It was such a blessing. It was an exciting time. It was great.
Yeah, I would say so. I was just looking real quick to see if I could see. Uh, ah, Tim Drummond.
Tim Drummond.
Yeah. Okay, there you
He'd knock me around today for sure.
go.
Yeah.
The wonders of the internet. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, glad we figured that out. Yeah. That must have been nice. Kind of a career spanning collection.
It was
Yeah.
great. And to this day, people comment to me about it and that. And yeah, it's
Yeah.
a real great gift at that time in my life because, I wasn't doing that much else. And then this came together, and yeah, I was able to make a couple videos, I guess, I don't know, and tour quite a bit with it. So it was sort of a diving back in.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I was gonna say this helped bring about a resurgence of interest in your music.
it did. It really did. Yeah, yeah.
So
So it's just a great thing that happened. Opportunity meets preparation, I guess.
there you go. There you go. I like that. I like that. Well, talk a little bit about honoring our own and being recognized for your musical contributions. Those must have been proud
Oh,
moments.
yeah, yeah. Well, like they had a series of those with various, uh, artists that they felt deserved it, and I guess I was one of them. And it was just in a large club. It was a good gig. I was happy to that. I was also involved in the Hamilton Music Awards situation over a number of years, and that was great as well, recognition. And yeah, so there wasn't. I know they did a series of events honoring people like Mike McKenna of McKenna Mendelsohn Mainline, and a bunch of other people. I can't really remember names, and I just happened to be in there as one, and I got a bunch of applause and had a good time.
Good, good, good. Well, moving forward, I really like the name Peace on Earth.
Ah, yes, that
Talk
band.
about, talk about the concept behind that project and how it got started.
It got started one night in Dan Kolthof's, the drummer's garage, and I'd never met Keon Crosswell before, and I think there was another guy there. It was pretty an odd jam. We started jamming, and a guitar player that I'd never met before decided that was it. He's quitting music, and off he went. And and I don't think it had to do with the quality of what we were doing. But anyway, yeah. So it was a moment. It was a powerful moment getting together. There was power there, and we just the three of us were able to just get our rocks off in this rehearsal place for quite a while, and then I started writing songs for the band, and it was a Christian band, and we called ourselves Peace on Earth, and we made a couple albums, and very exciting times, and a lot of electric music going on. Made a few videos, made homemade videos, made four maybe, I can't remember, and I had a good experience with those guys. Yeah, yeah, they're still my friends.
Well, good, good. Well, were you familiar at all with their work prior to working with you?
Oh yeah, Dan was a well-known drummer around town. I'd never met Keon before, but turned out he was just a great player. Um, I think he, at one point in his thing, he did a Jimi Hendrix tribute show. He was like that kind of guy, and he looked like Jimmy a bit, and could play. He would play the left-handed guitar, and so yeah, so he was a great player, and we just had good times. We did as much recording as we could, and I enjoyed writing the songs for the group. Um, Nothing much became of it except for um, our own blessed feelings from having done the projects.
Okay. So that's a closed door, or there's no more pump
Oh,
band.
gee whiz, isn't that interesting? I suppose it could happen at any time.
Okay.
Get back together and do that band. I really love that band. There's some songs on there that on those two albums that I really like a lot, and all of them actually. And they were complicated to some degree, and it was a good experience. Power trio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, pardon the pun or me saying this, but I think we can always use more peace on Earth. So,
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I thought. And um, we had the lion and the lamb as our sort of logo. Yeah,
logo.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, especially in these times. Uh,
Also,
well, well, I mentioned in the intro the 2019 the two albums, One Man Talking and Common Man Cool. Uh, the first one, Electric Gospel album. Um, could you say that might have been like a kind of a full circle thing for you, going back to your roots and your dad, maybe?
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
Uh,
And found out that he was actually right all these years,
ah.
uh, and so it was a shock to me. And I had fun making that album. That was one we made here on the island, and um, I played a lot of instruments on that, and it really was a good showcase for the, uh, as I call it, electric gospel songs that I was writing at the time. I wrote my girlfriend a Christian album as well. And we did it at that studio. I produced it. And yeah, so God has been good to me. And so I try to be good to God, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's I'm sure your dad is smiling down
I'm
and
sure he is. Who'd have thunk it?
right. See, I told you so. No. Right. Well, and then Common Man Cool, a collection of acoustic ballads, some dating back to 72, going
Yeah.
back. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's just a thought I had, you know, because there were some songs that I really liked to redo and that were valuable. And then there were some new songs I haven't recorded, and I just meshed them all together, and it made a pretty coherent album, even though it spanned 50 years, you know, of different songs.
Yeah. Emily is one, and the video for it is nice too.
Yeah, it's a nice song, and I remember there's a long story behind just about everything that I do. It's a winding road and a jigsaw puzzle of how things fit together to come together. And yeah, I got an opportunity to make that. That's the lead-off song from the Life and Times Disc 1. Um, and we had an opportunity to make a video, so I wrote a little script for it, and that was we did it at a guy named Bob Lanois, uh, his um, his cabin in the woods, and that's Daniel Lanois' brother. And that's why in that video there's a very expensive antique recording board and microphones and that Dan was just storing them at his brother Bob. So I took advantage of that and did some video in front of those things. And yeah, it was a fun video to do, and it got my daughter off my back, you know. I wrote a song about her.
Got her on your back. Had she been nagging you for a while?
I think so. I think she had, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Actually, I wrote another one, but it was just a funny one, so I didn't. That wasn't enough. So yeah, so it's a nice tribute to her.
Yeah, my mother's name is Emily.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Well, did you get speaking of those two albums from 2019, good reaction from the fans and people?
Um, oh, we're talking about
One Man
One
Talking.
Man Talking and Common Man Cool. Yeah, I really haven't done too much playing wise or pushing those songs or anything like that. The recent concert that I did was the first time I've been on stage in a number of years, any kind of consequential stage. I sometimes I play the open mic here with my girlfriend and for kicks. And but no, I hadn't done anything performance wise in a long time. So so I'm not really performing those songs at all. No. So the feedback from fans has been you know, whatever it's been, but I haven't really pushed any agenda with those.
Any
Just put them up there.
Yeah. Well, speaking of a couple of weeks ago when you performed, was there still a little nervousness before you went on?
No,
No.
absolutely not. And that's pretty amazing. My heart rate didn't increase from the time I was told that we were going to do this to the time that everybody was standing up applauding. My heart rate was just exactly the same throughout the whole thing. Um, so no, I didn't get nervous. I didn't get excited, and that sort of was interesting to me. It was just happened. There was no nerves or anything like that, and the musicians were really top-notch musicians, and I knew the material well by then. And my only concern was that, and it wasn't really a concern because I knew I could do it. Was just that to be able to sing them correctly and stay on the right melody line so that the harmony vocalist could sing with me. Good.
Yeah.
So, but no nerves at all. It's just
Okay.
normal to me. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's good. Well, what are you working on currently? What's on the immediate horizon for you?
Well, I've written a new album, and I'm just waiting to see what the what the synchronicity of all of this is going to lead to, because the people that I work with on this reunion gig, the Midnight Matinee Band, um, we've got some more concerts coming up in the spring. So I'm hoping that, not really hoping, but I'm thinking maybe that if I could get these players to record the new album, wouldn't that be swell?
Yes, it would. It
Yeah.
certainly.
So that's what I'm just waiting to see. I don't make that many decisions myself. My life is sort of guided and by my faith, and so far it's paid off mega.
Mega times. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. How long normally or how far in advance does something like that have to be planned out usually?
The concerts or the
Oh, the concert.
concerts. Well, I don't know. They're talking about doing them in the spring, so I guess it takes that long. And once winter's over, they can it makes travel easier. It makes people coming out easier. The whole ball of wax. But that's what I heard, and so yeah. So I'm looking forward to that, and it would be the same program that we played a couple of weeks ago there in Hamilton. And but these gigs are in Toronto, and I'm not sure where else.
Okay. Well, how about the progress on the new album? How's that?
Well, wouldn't that be great? I know the material well. I've written it, and I'm just sort of waiting to see, like I say, for someone to say, "Hey, Ray, why don't we make that album together?"
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. I'm not going to make it acoustically, like just me and my guitar or anything like that. But I'll wait and see what happens. And I'm really happy with the material that I'm writing these days. I live a pretty good, calm life, pretty serene, and right on the ocean. And I have a small boat, aluminum boat, and a parrot. So it's pretty calm.
Oh,
Don't get out much.
have we heard the parrot any time during the interview? I don't
Not yet, I don't think. Hey, Mary. Mary, got
say
anything to say? No. She's like that singing frog that would sing everywhere except when he was in front of people.
except when you wanted it to.
Right?
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. Well, that sounds like a plan. Have you had any bites yet from anybody that might be interested? Any working with you on the new material, new album?
Oh, well, like I'm sure everyone would be interested.
Yeah,
It's just a matter of details. And so there's things going on in everybody's life, and we just did this concert as it really surprised us all. The response was so overwhelmingly positive that hey, we should do this again, or maybe across the country. And
yeah.
so I think that's what they're thinking about, and I should be able to somewhere along the line stick my new album project in there, into people's minds, and see what happens over the next 6 months, I guess. Yeah.
Well, tell people your website and or any other plugs you want to put in.
RaymondMaterick.com, and that's about it. It's got everything there, and that you want to know about me, except really recent stuff, because my the guy that does my website, hasn't been feeling all that well. So, but it's mostly up to date, generally speaking. Yeah.
Yeah, I found it when I perused it.
Good.
Well, all
Yeah.
right. Well, all right, Ray. I'll tell you what we could do in like signing off, if you wouldn't mind, having a view of the water out
Can
there.
you see? Will you be able to see it, you think?
We can see the background. We can see the background there. And oh yeah, yeah.
That's where we live.
There we go. All right. Oh yeah. nice. That's nice to be that close to the water like that.
It's really great. I don't see any grass where I'm sitting. I just see ocean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been great. What can I say? Another blessing in my life.
All right. Well, you have been blessed.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Ray. I will let's stay in touch, and I will send you a copy of this once I get it edited a little bit. There shouldn't be much. Shouldn't be
No,
much.
we didn't. I didn't screw up too much. No.
No, I know you didn't.
Thanks so much for having me on your show, Greg.
Oh,
It's been a
sure.
pleasure talking to you.
You're very welcome, and all the best to you. And also have a very Merry Christmas.
Ah, you too.
Yeah,
Yeah, too.
and the happiest New Year.
Thank you.
And
You too.
well,
Yeah.
hopefully, as they always say, hopefully next year will be better. But
Well,
always,
you know, it's a big year next year down there in the States and for the world, I guess.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. That's true. So anyway, we can just hope and pray. So, all
We
right,
got,
right, Ray.
that's what we can do.
That's right. All right. Well, all the best, and we will keep in touch. And you have a good rest of the weekend, also.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right.
Bye for now.
Bye bye.